Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello and welcome to Side Quests. This episode you have Christopher Love, host of the WTF DYW podcast, where I get a person on to tell me what the feck do they want. Also one half of Filthy's Elden Ring Stings, where my dear friend Filthy chronicles his journey through Elden Ring as a FromSoft newbie, which I mock him for a lot. Joining me on this episode are the co-founders of WTF DYW, Deadbeat,
Yo,
and Punk.
Hold on. We're making podcasts for other people now.
Yes, indeed. For this episode of Side Quests, we're bringing one of our favourite Game Boy games, The Legend of the River King.
which is a fishing RPG enhanced for the Game Boy Color, which was developed by Victor and published by Natsume, the same team that brought us the excellent Harvest Moon on the Game Boy.
Whoa, settle pedal. One, we definitely have colour spelt with a U up there because we don't fear vowels like our freedom-loving cousins across the Atlantic. Two, I don't work for free. I barely muster up the energy to do our show.
Stormageddon was kind enough to appear on our show and extended the opportunity to record an episode of Side Quests, which we gladly accepted.
We can do that in our f***ing show.
I thought we weren't swearing on this one.
We aren't. I promise to keep it radio friendly.
So, we're wasting our own material on another show, and we can't swear.
Podcasting is give and take. You help out people when you can, and not when it suits you.
Plus, if we make a friend or two online, then we don't have to talk to each other as frequently as we have been.
Well, you two can talk to your f***ing selves. I don't perform for other shows. You sellouts.
We've been over this already. That's why we all replayed Legend of the River King and made all these glorious notes that we're about to go over.
I normally play this once a year anyway. What's the problem?
The problem is we're stuck for topics of our own, without doing charity work for on the internet.
Deadbeat, stop the recording, please.
Righto. Is it the red button again?
Right, you blear-eyed Stain.
I think that's it.
You sit your down on that chair and record the episode, or I'll take you around the back of the house and introduce you to the shovel with your name on it.
Get over yourself, your mouth's foaming.
I've had it with you, you lazy snide Every recording, you have some problem with what we're doing.
I just think our time would be better spent.
I don't need time management tips from you, you caustic, scornful turd of a wastrel. What I need from you is to talk about a quaint fishing RPG we enjoyed in our childhood before I duct tape you up and drop you into the middle of Loch Earn.
Relax, you f***ing wingnut, I can hear you.
I know you can f***ing hear me. That's involuntary. I want you to listen to me.
Yeah, I don't owe you money. Knock off the routine. Let's get back to it.
You are one short outburst away from digging a microphone out of your chest cavity.
Will I hit the record button again? Are you two done playing with each other?
Yep, back to the show. Yes, this week we decided to talk about Legend of the River King.
You begin this game in your house as your sister is dying of...
Yeah, it's never really explained what this mystical disease is.
Mange?
Mange from eating manky old fish. It's a possibility.
Whatever it happens to be, there is only one cure. The Guardian, which I think is the River King, hence the name.
Magic fish fingers made from the Guardian can cure all ailments.
So, you leave your house on a journey to save your mangy sister. And there just so happens to be a stream in front of you.
Fish live in water.
That they do. You're also surrounded by buildings. You'll find in most of the towns you visit a tackle shop to buy new equipment and bait.
There's also the fish shop that will buy your freshly caught product and pay you hard cash for these poor, innocent creatures.
In this game, you're paid for your fish based on how long they are, or how heavy they are, even though some of the smaller fish are rare and harder to catch, which vexes me to this day.
Walking up to the water's edge, you then take your rod out.
Yo!
We can't do that all episode. We're going to have to say rod frequently.
Yo!
Well, in fishing mode, you see little yellow blips in the water, and these are all the fish.
If you cast too close to the fish, you'll spook them and they'll swim away.
Of course they're gonna swim. They're hardly gonna fly away.
This does require a little bit of patience and practice. The current will carry your hook in a certain direction, or fish may swim towards your bait if you're lucky.
What is meant to happen is that you catch the fish. You sell the fish when your pocket's full. You buy more bait, catch more fish, sell the fish, buy better gear.
That is the gameplay loop in a nutshell, but if anyone is looking to start this game, just save all your money at the start and buy a fly fishing rod.
Yo!
When you upgrade the flies, you no longer need to stock up on bait, as flies can be used several times and they very rarely break.
You also get a bit more control in the water, making it slightly easier to get a bite if you're using the right bait, lure, or fly.
Turns out fish are quite the fussy customers. When you do get lucky enough to get your cursor in the right place, sometimes you get a little deflated beeping noise.
No, mate. See you and see your bait. You can kiss the back end of my dorsal fin.
In the days of yonder, you would have to keep track of which bait was preferred by which fish, hook sizes, and the locations.
Now we can just Google everything and not experience the game or work anything out.
Yeah, back in the good old days, gamers knew how to game. Not like the kids today, with their quick resume, their haptic feedback, and accessibility options.
So what's your beef with accessibility options?
No. You're not going to get me cancelled.
Do you hate the differently abled?
I just meant back in the days of yore, when things were simpler.
And your outdated beliefs were still in fashion?
I would love to see a remaster of this game with a bit of haptic feedback.
Could be a good excuse to plug the PS5 back in.
At least Spider-Man 2 might be coming out this year. That's something.
Fishing from the water's edge is all well and good, but you'll notice fish further out than you can cast with your weedy little fisher boy arms.
You will unlock a boat early on in the game, and this helps get you to deeper waters or to other areas not connected by land or bridge.
Using this boat, however, will use up your health. So if you go too far, you will capsize and drown, only to have your bones picked clean by the very creatures you sought to enslave, slaughter, and sell for profit. Irony. Thy name is Reaper.
Yeah, or you could pack yourself a lovely little lakeside lunch. Eating food will replenish your health points so you can keep afloat for longer and avoid that.
This is also an RPG with random battles, so you can batter some local wildlife to increase your health points.
Beasties kinda jump out at you from nowhere. It starts off with a few spiders, which isn't too daunting. Anyone can punch a spider to death.
You can also avoid these battles, but it's worth your time to grind up a few levels.
The higher your level, the more health you have, which of course is always good, but later on you could find yourself going toe-to-toe with something like a bear.
Turns out walking around the wilderness with a bucket full of bear food, armed with nothing but your rod.
Yo!
Oh, that is annoying.
The battle system isn't your usual turn-based experience either. It's worse. It is so much worse.
You press fight and you notice this little blob come up on your screen, only to vanish and reappear on a different part over the enemy sprite. That's meant to be your fist.
There's no rhyme nor reason to where this little fist will appear, and it might not even be over the enemy, in which case if you attack, well, your attack misses.
Each enemy has weak points, but as you have no control over where you attack, it's random chance rather than skill.
Every time the fist vanishes from the screen, it starts moving faster and faster until it becomes a blur that will normally miss every time.
Although, when the RNG gods decide to smile upon your little digital fisher person, and you manage to crack a swift-knuckled kiss of destruction on a crow's beak, it's an incredibly satisfying moment.
Right in the fucking beak.
Hi, boy. You've been warned.
To be fair, it's easy to get excited about boxing beaks.
With the random element to battles, and no option to wear armour to protect yourself, you'll want to have a few levels later on in the game, especially when you come across the likes of the aforementioned bear.
I know where I'd punch a bear for a critical hit.
Right in the fragile male ego.
So as dodgy as the battle mechanics are, and yes, they are dodgy, we should probably get into the fishing mechanics.
As we mentioned, there are several setups. You can use lures, flies, and bait for different types of fish, depending on what type of rod...
Yo!
Hold
on. You can't yo when you're the one that said it.
And who exactly made you the yo sheriff, Cupcake?
If you manage to trick the fish into taking a munch on what you threw at it, we cut to the reeling mode. And the first time this happened, well, we were quite shocked.
When you hook a fish, the game cuts to a view of the fish swimming off, and you can press the A button to start reeling it back in.
The detail here is incredibly impressive. Every single fish has a different model, and you don't get to see things like this very often on a Game Boy.
When you're on the overworld map, it's as basic as you can imagine. Top-down Pokemon affair with even less detail somehow.
But as soon as you hook a fish, the music kicks in. You can see the water surface, the bed of the river. It's such a contrast to how the rest of the game looks.
Your catch will be swimming hard as soon as it gets hooked. You need to wait for it to stop and have a smoke break before you start reeling it in.
Applying too much pressure while it still has some fight left means it'll probably escape with your bait. It's also possible you might break or lose your lures as well.
But if you let it swim too far, it'll just escape.
One must meld minds with a fish to outthink the fish, to capture the fish.
You can get lucky sometimes. With a swift tap on the reel button, you can sometimes take the wind out of the fish's sails.
When the fish is tired and you start reeling it in, you notice that it starts to slow down. The fish is gathering its strength and it may take off again, and as soon as that happens, you need to let go and repeat the process.
There is a fine art to catching fish. You do get a feel for it eventually, and as it is the game's primary focus, it's very addictive.
Fishing in RPGs is nothing new, but usually it's just a tap a button when an exclamation point appears above your head. Fishing games are a bit more in depth now, but when this game was released, it was a pretty novel idea.
Just finding all the different species and combinations required to catch them, it was a great time sink, which always suited the Game Boy perfectly.
The main campaign is pretty short. Once you know what you're doing, especially if you're a coward that uses guides.
Why not just pay somebody else to play the games for you? I mean, it's obviously too much of a hassle to work it all out by yourself.
But this was a perfect little title for the long car journeys, and a great game to lose yourself in and escape the real world for a little while.
It did get a sequel in Legend of the River King 2, which could be linked up with Harvest Moon 2 for some kind of life simulation crossover event.
Trading fish, bugs, and flowers. Gotta catch 'em all.
You forgot to mention the Tamagotchi mode earlier.
I didn't forget it, I just didn't think it was worth mentioning.
I hated that thing. I don't need any more dead fish on my conscience.
On the main menu, you can either select Fish or Raise. Fish will take you to the main game campaign, where you try to save your mangy sister. And Raise will bring you to a fish tank, where a new little guppy is born.
Guppy? Is that what baby fish are called?
I don't actually know. I think so.
Google says fry, or fingerling.
I thought they were called Alvin.
That's just salmon, you inbred mutant.
Well, salmon and trout.
Regardless, you get an empty tank with a wee babby fish. You need to set it up to meet the conditions a wee babby fish needs.
They need water.
True, they do need water.
Shallow water for little fish. Deep water for big fish. Pebbles or sand at the base. I don't know what the difference is.
You also install toys or decorations to keep them happy. You can add a current to the water for stronger fish.
And of course, an oxygen pump so it doesn't die. With all this set up, you feed your fish whatever it wants and keep it happy. Every time you save your game during the campaign, you can check to see how it is progressing, and usually it just dies and you're left with another egg.
Never worked out what made the fish progress or grow. It wasn't set to a real-time clock.
Sometimes nothing would happen at all. 5 minutes later, it had grown into a completely different fish.
So you would go back in, feed it, clean the water, take out equipment it didn't need, but there was never any rhyme or reason to it.
Forgetting one important thing.
What's that?
It was pointless. It served no purpose.
Aren't all virtual pets pointless?
Yeah, but at least you got a happy beep or two out of most virtual pets. Do you remember Monkey Puncher?
Are you honestly asking me if I remember Monkey Puncher?
Well, remember when you made friends with the monkeys in the game and they stopped biting you or mocking you when you hurt yourself in training?
Valid point. Your fish should have been able to help you in your battles in the campaign.
At least then it would have served a point.
You're gonna punch a bear and you think a babby fish is gonna help.
You can just throw at the babby fish and then run away.
The babby fish you just raised with your own 2 hands, you just sacrifice that to the first animal you fall out with?
Aye.
You make me sick.
Look, I'm on a quest to save my mangy sister. That wee babby fish, I wouldn't have thrown its life away in vain.
I'm just glad we didn't name it.
This recording, it's kind of starting a spiral. We need to smack it off the side of the boat.
The Legends of the River King. It was a rare little treat that sadly eroded due to time. It could be picked up with a 3DS's Virtual Console, but with that service facing closure, the original cartridge is getting very rare and there are no new entries in the franchise. We just wanted to give it one last hurrah before it was forgotten.
Pirated.
Play it on an emulator.
But if you enjoyed what you heard for some reason and fancied a little bit more, you can find it over on wtfdyw.co.uk and searching WTF DYW on your podcast player of choice. Now please excuse us while we get our rods out.
Yo!
Oh yeah, one of us is going to have to do this sign off.
What sign off?
It's there at the bottom of the script.
I'm not saying that. It's so American.
Well, one of us is going to have to say it.
Rock, paper, scissors.
It's as fair as any.
1, 2, 3. Bollocks.
Luck of the draw, punk.
It's all you.
Happy gaming.
Hey,
Oh, hey, Jeff.
what's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CertainPOV.com.